Hello, I'm Brian Hurd. I'm a lawyer who practices in elder law, or law for older people and their families. You know, it's funny how history can repeat itself. In 2008, we had the GFC, the Global Financial Crisis. What was significant about that, amongst many things, was the fact that many adult children fell on hard times. And what we noticed was an increasing trend for adult children to move back in with their parents when they'd fallen on hard times. Now, 12 years later, we have COVID-19, and guess what's happening? The same thing is happening again. Adult children who have fallen on hard times or have lost their job are moving back in with their parents. Now, as a parent, that's something that should interest you in terms of what does it mean for an adult child to move back in with you in order to deal with the hard times that they're suffering. I had recently, for example, an elderly couple in their late 70s. The mother or the wife suffered from multiple sclerosis. Their 49-year-old son had fallen on hard times and came to them and said, "Would you mind if I moved in for a while until I can get back on my feet?" 8 months later, after saying yes, the relationship in that house was totally poisonous. The son made no contribution whatsoever, either physically, caring-wise, or in financial sense, to his living with his parents. Their relationship had totally broken down and imploded. They even went to the stage where they had to have rosters of who was going to use the kitchen from one day to the next and what times of the day they could use the kitchen. So he isolated himself within the parents' house. Eventually the parents decided this was intolerable, so they tried to get out. And that meant trying to get him out. Now that proved also a legal challenge because the law hasn't confronted this very often, this issue of children moving in with parents. So when the law was approached, as in me, to determine what the parents could do, we realised a few black holes existed in the law. Namely, they weren't, or he wasn't a tenant, he wasn't a boarder. The only solution in order to get him out, apart from asking him, which he refused, was to apply the law of trespass. In other words, he was a trespasser in his own parents' house. He was living there without consent. Therefore, under the law, he was trespassing. So we then had to engage the police in order to have him removed from the house. And fortunately, on this occasion, the story ended happily because the police officer had a quiet word to the son one day, and within 2 days he had left. So the issue for you is, this sounds like a relatively informal suggestion, and after all, parents think they're parents for the rest of your life. How long do you have to be a parent to your children? You need to ask yourself that question, particularly if you are elderly. Are you prepared to put up with having your children move back in with you, where the circle is turned, to move back in with you and live with you every day of the week? It's something you should really be very concerned about from the outset. In other words, thinking about what happens if there's a breakdown in that relationship. Thinking about confronting again the what-ifs of this relationship. What is the arrangement to be? Should you document it? Should you engage the other members of the family, which I highly recommend? Because the last thing you want to do, particularly if you're suffering from bad health in your later years, is to have a legal problem within your house with one of your adult children. That is hardly what you call good for your health or happiness. So think about it seriously. If any adult child suggests to you that they might move in, albeit temporarily, think about the implications of that before saying yes and trying to be once again a good parent.